Hi, my name is Evan and welcome. so, they are too loud. Okay. Hi, my name is Evan and welcome to Fearless Passports. Today we're going to talk about a topic of why Malaysians study in Indonesia. And the reason for this video is because there is a comment asking me to cover this topic, whereby she noticed there is a trend of Malaysian study in Indonesia, and at the same time Indonesian is getting their medical treatment in Malaysia itself. So today I have invited my friends from high school, Malreen, who has spent quite some time in Indonesia studying dentistry in Indonesia. So I pass the floor.
Hey, Evan!
Hello.
Alright, hey, Evan!
So can you tell us that why did you study in Indonesia? Because actually we didn't meet each other for 10 years after Form 5.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah.
Form 6.
Yeah. So after Form 6, sure of what I wanted to do. I had a local offer, but it wasn't the course that I would want to do for the rest of my life. In order to enter local universities to do like dentistry or medical, of course, it's very hard. Then my father came up with an idea like, give me two options. So it was Indonesia and India. I had friends who were studying in India and they only traveled back once a year, which I felt India was too far. So I chose Indonesia. I was aiming for UGM because I was told that it was one of the best in Indonesia and it was top ranking for a dental faculty. Why we usually choose to go Indonesia or India is because they have more number of seats, meaning like, for example, Gadjah Mada, we had 80 over students per class and there was 2 classes. So can you imagine how big is a batch? So there are higher chances for you to get a place there. So, and of course, Indonesia at that moment, compared to a private university in Malaysia, Indonesia is way cheaper. Like my 5 years course was much more affordable compared to me doing a 5-year course in private. So that was also one of the options.
How much is
it was the cost. So my total 2012 was amazing because I guess they had the cheapest tuition fee that time. So it was about 120,000 for that 5 years.
Wow.
120,000 ringgit. Yeah. It was crazily cheap. So because
cheap. 120,000 divided by 6 years, that means it's
roughly
3K per year to get a dentistry.
Yeah, it was like plus minus for the year 2012. But of course, like there were times after my batch, the fee increased a bit, but it was still much more affordable compared to studying in Malaysia.
Compared to India, which one is cheaper, Indonesia or India? Because our batch, we also have a few friends study, like I think Siwa, she studied doctor in India. I'm not sure how much is the price.
The price. I'm not so sure either, like how much it was, because I guess it varies according to their uni. But because I was still considering like the air ticket, the cost of living and everything. So for me, even though the tuition fee was like plus minus almost the same, but then like the living expenses and my air ticket was way cheaper because like AirAsia was a direct flight from Yogyakarta to Malaysia to Kuala Lumpur. I could get ticket as cheap as 100 ringgit.
It is cheaper to fly from Kuala Lumpur to Yogyakarta than from Kuala Lumpur to Sabah. If you mention you ticket, yes, because I remember when I was in Sabah, I studied in Sabah, the one-way ticket cost me about, when you get cheap, you get maybe near to 200. Rarely you get 100, rarely.
100, right.
But you mentioned that you also get a course in Malaysian University, but you didn't like it. Yeah. So what the course is about?
So I had a business admin course, which is totally different from like because I was a science student, so it's like totally different, and I have no idea about accounts, like zero, like mathematics and me, zero.
But was it your very very last choice when you were selecting?
Yeah, true. It was like those like when you want to make the choices for your UPU, so you just start randomly choosing things because you don't know what else you want to choose already. Yeah, and then like so coincidentally it hit the one that I wasn't keen on.
So it's your last choice, the business.
Yeah, it was my last choice that time.
Because like me, when I studied in Sabah, the industrial chemistry, I also got the last choice. It's my last choice. In UGM, they also in Bahasa Penghantaran is Indonesian language, right?
Yes. So basically, they have both English and the Bahasa Indonesia. But then, like for dentistry, we thought it was gonna be in English, but it wasn't. So most of our classes was in Bahasa Indonesia. So at the moment, I was just like, "What is happening?" Because like during the classes, I'll just be zoning out. I'll be trying to catch. Like, thank God for Bahasa Malaysia. At least I have like, that some words that you can catch. But then it was, oh my God, it was so hard. It took time because of the slang, the speed of the way they speak. Is like, of course, they're like super fluent, right, in Bahasa
Very
Indonesia.
fast, right? The way
And
they
then,
speak.
right, yeah. And then I felt like, a coconut. We couldn't speak anything. Batchmates, our classmates, they're so nice. They were like translating for us. But the worst part was when the lecturers mix Bahasa Jawa in Indonesia. And I'll be like, oh my God, yeah.
The Bahasa Jawa is more
But yeah.
O, like the ending with O. So like apa
Yeah.
is O, so everything A is
Uh-uh.
the same to O, so apo.
It's so complicated, yeah, the Bahasa Jawa, because there's like 7 level apparently. Most of the time that I have a lecturer who loves to say Pieto.
What does
So
it
which
mean?
means like how? So how?
Pieto.
The Indonesian education system, I feel, is so good because they have this system where they got a jump class system. So we used to have it, right? But then after
Yes.
that, we had to shrink. In Malaysia, we used to have the PT3, not PT3, PTS, yes, where they will jump class if you pass the exam, right? I guess it's good in the sense that it gives them the opportunity to grow, like not following their age, but following their capability. So they're so young. So by the time that we all graduate, they are like just in their 23s, 24s.
In Malaysia, we have 6 years in primary school and then 5 years in secondary school, which is their SMR. And then we
Secondary
still
school,
do,
yeah.
2 more years. That's
Yeah.
like 12 years of compulsory education. It's a bit too much. Like when we graduate from university, we are about 23, 24, sometimes 25. If you want to do master, then you are already near to 30 years old. So a little bit slow in life, lah.
Yeah, I mean like,
Because you remember we used to study a lot of morals, civic. I'm not saying that these are not important, but I personally feel like this subject wouldn't bring you that far, because in Form 5 we used to memorize the definition of morals, which until now definitely we cannot remember like what is the definition of all this. So it actually
yeah,
took up,
I can't remember.
actually took up time to score another subject for morals, for instance. And then obviously it is not that important. Moral can be taught from society, from role model, from parents. Do they also study these subjects in Indonesia?
They do. So basically, they do all have that. Even in university, yeah, it's a compulsory subject. So we have compulsory subjects such as Kewarganegaraan, Pancasila, and then we have Agama. So which means that we can go for Agama class in the faculty. So we have to take it and we have to pass it.
So does it actually occupy how many credits? Like 3 credits or just those very small credits?
It's a lot. Like it could influence your GPA, your CGPA.
Oh, is it?
Pancasila is like our Rukun Negara, so we have a whole subject on Pancasila, which was very, very hard for us.
What is the career pathways between as a dentist in Malaysia and in Indonesia? What makes you want to
In
go there?
Indonesia. Okay, so basically, why I want to come back to Malaysia, of course, I want to contribute back to my country, lah. Right. I felt it was much easier to do a master's there compared to Malaysia, because like in Malaysia they have 2. One is a government supported master's, and one is the one that you pay yourself, right? So of course the pay yourself one is super expensive. If I were to do my master's in Indonesia, it would have been way cheaper. But it was just that it was not recognized by our government. So only until degree was recognized. Yeah. So that was sad. So like we have the khidmat wajib, where we would need to work as a dentist for a year. Then only you'll be a qualified or a certified dentist that you can work in a private. Unless like you migrate, then you don't come back to Malaysia, then that's another story, because which means you don't register under the council itself. In Indonesia, they can go private straight away. They don't have khidmat wajib. They don't have that. So you can either further study straight away, or you can just go open your own clinic straight away. So it's faster.
What is the average wages for a dentist in Indonesia? Well, how much they will be paid? Yeah, monthly salary.
At that time, one of my professors said like minimum is about 3 million to 4 million rupiah
Oh, wow. Okay.
in a month.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but like that's why he was like, oh, you should go back to Malaysia, because you can easily earn about 12 million rupiah per month.
3 million is like 1,000 1,000 ringgit in Malaysia.
Because I had professors who would tell me that, oh, don't stay here. You should go home and work there because you will earn better. They themselves with experience who are advising us to go back to Malaysia to work because they say we would earn better, especially if we open our own private clinics and then come back to Indonesia because it's so crowded in Indonesia that everyone is competing to give you, and you can't give like a higher price compared to another dentist because they have regulation, then BPJS, which is their insurance, so it's kind of hard in that sense. But it's easier for them to further study and also to open a dental clinic. Basically, like, there was a lot of difference between Indonesia and Malaysia healthcare system, whereby maybe because their population is more, and according to the data, World Bank data in 2018, their ratio of doctors to population is 0.4 to 1,000, whereas according to until 31st of December 2020 Malaysia, it was like 1.66 to 1,000. So we were like, so to say that if we were, so it's like a lot of difference, right? Like ratio from doctors to patient. The things I noticed is that they always go on like appointment, they have to have a longer waiting time. So maybe that's why some Indonesians who are who can afford better treatment, who can afford, they tend to come to Malaysia to seek medical help. Because I had professors who usually goes to Penang to do treatment. Yeah, so they actually chose to go to Penang. And she was like, I was like, oh, why did you go all the way to Penang? Because Indonesia has very good specialists and everything. And then she was like, oh, because it's faster and cheaper in Malaysia too. And then she said, also she would like to travel within Malaysia at the same time getting treatment. So
my ex-colleague, she actually brought her grandmother to Malacca for medical treatment. So from Jakarta, then she arrived in KL, and then she took a bus with her grandmother, which is not young obviously, then travel to Malacca. Such a hassle.
So in Penang, so they have like this thing called a healthcare tourism, where they are attracting tourists to come and have their healthcare here. So in Penang, actually, like among the warga asing who come to Malaysia for healthcare, at almost 60% are Indonesian.
Oh, wow.
So I guess it's faster, and I guess our equipments are also quite up to date, especially in the hospitals or in the area that they are focusing on this healthcare tourism. Also because in Indonesia, so many people, right? So I'm sure the waiting time is longer.
When I was in Indonesia, right, I also brought the China Chinese to the Puskesmas in the Ranpura area. So what surprised me was, although they are foreigners, but they still get very cheap treatments, which is very similar to our 1 ringgit clinics of Malaysia. So they still get very cheap lessons, maybe like 5,000 or 10,000, and because they also have kitas, right? That's why they are eligible for such a cheap treatment.
Yeah, cheap treatment. Yeah. So when I was working the Puskesmas, that time there was still a difference between warga emas and warga asing and also locals. But because you're a kitas holder, you will get the local price. As example, because it does not only apply for treatments, especially if you go visit, example in Yogyakarta, that's Borobudur. If you're a kitas holder, you can get a local price. So that's the difference. But in Malaysia, if you are a foreigner who's like just a foreigner and not married to a local, which means you don't have a surat nikah, then your price is a foreigner's price. So it's kind of expensive. Yeah, so your registration will be like 40 ringgit compared to a local, which is at 1 ringgit. But if you are married to a local, so automatically you're like starting, right, at Malaysia. So then you can get local price. I do. I miss Indonesia a lot. Okay, not only from my friends, to the food, to the people, to the environment, to the freedom, everything. Like I really miss Indonesia. Even until now, some of my friends, when those that graduated from Indonesia with me, so we will be like, oh damn, I miss eating this. I miss eating gado-gado. I miss ayam penyet or jamur goreng, and Jogja is famous for gudeg. So there is this particular gudeg shop that I really love. and you can only get it like from midnight to like 3 a.m. It was good. So you miss like all those like fun and exciting things, and I miss trying 33 different types of sambal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they have like So Indonesia was an amazing experience, and if can, I would really, really want to go back there to visit everyone once again.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm tearing up already.
Oh, really? Cheering up?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think how to do ending. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. That's it.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and stay tuned for my next video. And comment.
Okay.
Then you say then you say positive comments, please.
So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.